Hello, everyone. Welcome to Generation Mingle, the podcast where we dig into life and love, evolve across the decades. My name is B. I'm your Gen X host of the podcast, and per viewers and several letters that I received from you guys, today's topic is one that touches every generation, no matter who you are. We are talking today about illness. The kind that changes everything: cancer, chronic illness, conditions, and the quiet strength it takes to get through them. Now, this one is personal for me. Over a year ago, I have been diagnosed with cancer, and let me tell you, it changes everything. Okay, the time, the health, the way you think from morning to evening. If even your phone reminder to hydrate, it's entire day is just upside down. It's kind of like out the body experience every time you awake. So, but it is not about me. I want to talk about generation, because the illness just not happen to individuals, right? It happens through generations, and the way our parents have face it, the way our kids react to our diagnosis, and even the way we talk about, okay? It is evolving. Okay. So it is not something that you plan to talk about this on the air, but I decide that why not? If Generation Mingle is the place to actually be talking about everything. So, and we're talking about everything across generations. So why not to talk about illnesses? Okay. So since I said, the topic came around because you guys have mentioned and sent me plenty of letters that you want to talk about, I have a letter from Barbara, the boomer. Dear Generation Mingle, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1991, people whispered about it like a secret. You didn't say cancer out loud, you call it the C word. My husband wanted to protect me, my parents told me to pray, and my doctor said, don't worry the kids. But I was worried. I just didn't have the word to say it. Treatment was brutal, chemo made me weak, but silence made me even smaller. Now I see my granddaughter post her journey online with courage, humor, and hashtags, and I am so proud of her. We fought quietly, our generation, so they could fight loudly. That's what I'm thinking. Barbara, 73 years old, the breast cancer survivor. That line, we fought quietly, so they could fight loudly. Wow, I think it's very powerful. I think that, millennials and Gen Z have really pushed the buttons on something that we talk about, that we mentioning, and not even knowing someone that is diagnosed with the cancer. If you're talking to them, you can really help them a little bit. Not everyone is open immediately. I know, because it was very hard for me. My close ones and my friends didn't know for over a year that I have been diagnosed, so I understand, but I believe that the moment I start to speak about it was much easier. So this is why I think that millennials and Gen Z got it just right. Okay. So going back to boomers, they have, survived illnesses or any problems, health problems, with a big, stoicism, right? They believe being strong and being silent in the generation, that's it. The Gen X is my generation, when we start to little bit crack down, and, reach out to the side of the millennials to open our hearts to speak. And I have noticed, of course you all know, that today's millennials, they establishing for family members GoFundMe, blog posts, and they are creating treatment diaries for them as well to just support them. I think it's fabulous. The courage that they have, it speaks up really for the generation of millennials. So I sending kudos to you guys, because I think that you have been helping with the medical evolution as well. When you guys criticize sometimes, those boomers, you have to keep in mind that when a boomer have been diagnosed, during the times, the boomers got really, really sick. The treatment options were limited. The chemo, was really harsher on them, and for a week they wait to recover. It was extremely difficult. Now, the therapies are strictly targeted, and I'm the example of it. The immunotherapies are available, even experimental treatment are out there, right? And helping me the survival, for the cancer diagnosis. So that is also a huge part that is a little bit easier for Gen X or now millennials and the Gen Z to speak about versus the boomers that was really, really rough and destroyed them, right? So the medical situation was also rough, and I believe still exists. Keep in mind that I believe right now, like millennials have explained to me, it's interesting, they're not really scary to become ill. But what they scary to have the consequences, meet the bills afterwards, because the insurance still, as has been through the boomer generation, Gen X, millennials, still continue to be a problem, and especially the bureaucracy. Just to be on the phone for hours and hours to receive the approval for monthly treatments, for going to monthly specialists, or I remember, like in my town here in Vegas, I spent 8 hours on the phone to just make sure that I will have an appointment that was out for 3 to 4, 5 months. It's very crucial, as everybody knows that you listen, guys, to have that appointment as fast as possible, meet the specialist. But unfortunately, that still drags through our generation. So please give me a comments how you deal with that and your perspective on that issue, because I think we have not spoke about that, but the millennial and Gen Z, they are the ones that voicing the opinion that something has to change. So saying that, I have another letter from Tom. He admits that he is Gen X generation. Hey, Generation Mingle, I am 49, and I have been taking care of my mom who's going through pancreatic cancer. We are both stubborn. She doesn't like help, and I don't like watching her struggle. But every time I drive her to chemo, she cracks jokes. I am not dying, she says. I am just recharging. I grew up Gen X. Latchkey, kid, key, take care of yourself, don't cry. But this break you open. There is no manual for watching your parents fade, even when they are fighting like hell, considering that she is a boomer. I have learned to accept help, to ask for it even. Turns out, vulnerability isn't weakness, it is love in action. Tom. Well, I can relate to that because I am stubborn myself as well. And as a matter of fact, my mom was here, and I did have a tough time because I did have a hard time to receive the care, and she was really, really frustrated with me that I don't want that care. So I understand Gen X, and exactly, I know what Tom means. We were raised to be self-efficient. We never ask for any help. But I think at that level, he's doing phenomenal. So kudos to you, Tom, to asking for assistance, because it's really tough. And I'm sure you have also a full-time job, like all, Gen X is still continuing our current economy. So that must be really, really tough to connect everything. And, it's interesting, right? Because we always think that the caregivers, the best ones, are the female one. And here is Tom doing it all. So more power to you, Tom. Thank you. So something again to give, credit to the millennials, that they are seriously more comfortable with being vulnerable, right? They, attending therapies, they're leaning on somebody's shoulder. They don't have a problems to talk about burnout as a caregivers, and they don't have a problems to voice their opinion how they feel after some treatments. For me, as a Gen X, vulnerability was feeling like walking on broken glass with barefoot, seriously. But I have learned that illness definitely help you to learn that. And why I'm talking so much about millennials, because I have really good letter received for someone that has been diagnosed with cancer. Her name is Layla, and she's millennial. And here we go. Dear Generation Mingle, I am 36 years old, and I have been in treatment for lymphoma for past year. I have 2 kids, 5 and 8 years old. The hardest part was to explain it to them. I told them, Mom's body has some bad cells but the doctors are working to make it better. My youngest asked if the doctor had superpowers. I said, sort of. My parents, boomers, told me not to scare them, but honestly, kids sense everything. They know when something is wrong. What surprised me most was how strong they became. They remind me to take my medicine, they kiss my scars. They make cancer less scary for me. Layla, thank you. Layla, thanks so much for sharing your story. It's just, small part that you wrote to us, but my heart just go out to those young parents and especially millennials. I think to be so open and talk from the beginning of any diagnosis of your illness, what's going on with you, it's better for everyone. It removes that dark cloud from your mind, from your shoulders, and definitely helps overall the family. I understand boomers' resilience to that, but I think millennials, you got that right. I believe that it's important that parents speak to children. And I know it's very hard because I have known other millennials, they have a much younger kids that they don't realize that, and they have to chuck it in and keep it in the heart, the recovery, and pray every day that everything's gonna be fine and okay, and then they could be, seeing the children going to school and graduate. But I think overall, millennials got this right with illnesses. We have to talk about and easing out the approach, and I think that for the diagnosed and the caregivers, this definitely is better just from my experience. But please subscribe, let us know, give us a, in chat, small statements, whatever you feel like, on generationmingle.com. We have an email box. I'm looking for those letters because I would like to continue that conversation. And I know it's a little bit heavier episode, but like I said, I believe we need to talk about because connecting all generations, okay? This letter, also reminds me little process of my thinking when I was diagnosed. Guys, we all have those problems, right? I believe females a little bit more than the men, maybe, in perspective what we look like. We worry about the nails, hairdos, or wrinkles, what we're gonna wear, or makeup. Men may be thinking, oh my gosh, I need to lose a couple of pounds, I need to go to the gym. But guys, when you are diagnosed, all this process of thinking absolutely disappeared, okay? The only problem that it is that particular illness. And I have been that person before that I wasn't bothered about small processes and problems, what occurring through the day. But just keep in mind, sometimes how you're responding to someone or see someone, that maybe that person has that diagnosis and you guys don't even know that, because I have been that person working and in between the coworkers, and no one has noticed or don't know that I have been ill, and certain behavior has been noticed by me. And I can see it today because I recognize my coworkers being diagnosed, and I see how they affected by other people's behavior. So that was also a huge part why I decided to create that podcast, because I think we do have to be aware of surroundings, other people, because everybody could be ill, the 20-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 50 or the 60. So this is why, again, I'm talking about that illnesses to make a point for you guys. We need to keep our generations together to understand how we're going through this process. So as I have been, proudly reevaluating our millennials and explaining some of the boomers' behavior of stoicism and Gen X of survival, I have a letter received that I have been quite surprised because it's Gen Z, and I'm sorry, Gen Z, I do not have my connection with you, but I'm always looking forward to have you guys comments and letters. And this letter is from Jaden. Dear Jen Mingle, I am 20 years old and my grandpa has colon cancer. He jokes about it, but I can tell it is tough. At first, I didn't visit him. I didn't know what to say, but one day I realized he doesn't need me to talk. He just needs me to be there. Now we watch old sports highlights, eat chips, and he tells stories about when he was my age. He says laughter helps more than that medicine, and I think he's right. Jaden. Oh my gosh, this is so pure for me, okay? I really think that I finally start to understand Gen Z. They have a problems with communication. Well, I'm sorry, Gen Z, you guys like to communicate with the memos that I'm still learning. Give me a little bit credit for that, okay? But the empathy is real and is there. The fact that, this 20-year-old, when we are sometimes so opinionated, especially Gen X and the boomers are about those Gen Z, right? Seeing just them, texting or them being involved in the medias and so on and having funny outfits or a funny color in the hair. But can you see that? How unimportant is all of that versus that beautiful, pure empathy that he gives to his grandpa? Absolutely touched my heart. Thank you, Jaden, for that later. That is amazing. So just to, again, they not always can say the right thing, right? But if you can see in someone's something behavior right afterwards, or that see that they're noticing or they're acting upon, it's just wonderful. So give them a break, even if they, again, spending too much time on the phone or too much time, on the internet, to see how pure they are. And with that letter and several other things that happened recently for me with Gen Z, I really think that possibly, this is the future generation, The boomers try very hard and they thought they get it. The Gen X tried to be rebellious and millennial could not really figure it out what's going on. They still figure it out. But I think Gen Z will get it right for us. So please send me a comment what you guys think. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and other medias that you can find on our website at generationmingle.com. I would love to hear from you, and I would love to learn more from millennials and Gen Z. Let me know, keep me informed how you dealing with, your family differences and diagnosis in the family, and how you looking, at, the vulnerability of illness, and what is your process, how you think is, how many of us are like Jaden, just to show the empathy so wide to a grandpa that majority of Gen Z does not talk to, right? So what is really wild to me that every generation brings a little bit of strength, right, to the table if it's coming of the illnesses. The boomers have the endurance, the Gen X has the, passion, perseverance, and still can maintain the strength even through falling down, right? The millennials show us vulnerability. They're open, with the process. They writing about it, they talking about different issues out loud, and they're very helpful with establishing different things, communications online. And I think the Gen Z is just present right now, and this is fine with me because you're still very young and exploring all the generations. So each era redefines what it means to be strong in their own way, right? How to deal with the pain, to being ill or being the caregiver. So illness changes us, changes the generations. So please give me, chat, drop in comments. I would like to hear about this, what you guys thinking, okay? How you approaching the future as a Gen Z, millennial, or the Gen X, what do you think's happen next? So what I want to say, for anyone listening who fighting something, a illness, a fear, a grief, or exhaustion for being the caregiver, just know this. Your story belongs here, like those stories today, okay? If you can share your story, your fight, with your miracle experience, let us know. We want others to know, to help how to survive some situations, especially right now that the times are a little bit rough for everyone, okay? So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to the podcast. Thank you for subscription. Thank you for following us on Instagram. And just remember one thing, as always, no matter your generation, boomers, Gen X, millennials, or Gen Z, may your Wi-Fi be strong, may your music be loud, may your family arguments be just enough to entertain everyone around the table. And until next time, keep on mingling.